Hi, guys. Welcome to this episode of the Trainer Feed. We are your host. My name is Angel Sanchez. We have David Bravo.
Hi.
And Jacques Delager.
Good afternoon, everybody. Or morning if you're hearing this then.
And we have a couple of topics today. We were going to go over first, shoes, kicks, what kind of shoes to get right now, what's hot, what's not hot.
Hottest trends,
Hottest trends in the field. We were going to go over certifications and things to look for when getting your certs. And last but not least, we were going to go over, David, what do you have?
Our Theragun Hypervolt foam rolling self-myofascial release and my thoughts on it.
There we go. Cool. All right, so we'll start with kicks because we already started talking about it. So we'll just dive back in. I think we're having a drought, right? Like nobody's gotten any new kicks recently.
I'm getting them today. Getting new kicks today.
And you're getting the Romoleo 2s?
The Romoleo 2s. I like that design a lot better. I think it looks a lot cooler.
What color are you getting them in?
Shit. I think they were all black ones. Black.
Do they come
like the website I went to? They have the shoes, but depending, so you could click on whichever model you want, and then it'll tell you which sizes are available. It's called athleteps.com.
Yeah, I was about to say, drop that. Let's check it out.
Yeah, no, it's pretty dope. Let me see if I can show y'all.
Do they have like funky colors, or is it just always like typically all one
those
color?
Are good colors.
Yeah,
those
some
are
of
dope.
Those colors they have, like the neon green ones, I think are fire. I mean, I typically wouldn't wear something that bright, but
oh, I have those in the 3s.
Yeah.
I know. I need to wear
the
more
black
often,
ones,
but...
keep it simple, or maybe I'll get the neon green and pink ones. Who knows?
Yeah, those were done specially for the Olympics in 2016, to my knowledge.
My boy Lu Xiaozhang wore those.
So the 2016 Olympics, they had the lifters. They had, do you remember Marcella had those sneakers with the pink and the fluorescent yellow? A client gave her.
Her client gave her, and her client had them too, right?
Yeah, exactly. So those were all in the 2016 Olympics. It was a theme that I think Nike were going with, and that's typically something that I just happen to follow some of their trends, their patterns, and
you know what? I'm getting the neon green.
You got the neon green? I'll find them before the end of the episode. I'll find them for our YouTube viewers who are interested. I'll show you. They're in here.
But, yeah, and for the YouTube people, you got something going on in the side there, right? You got a little foliage.
This is where all the So this is where everyone thought
this happens.
This is in the dungeon. No, this is a tree that the lights come on, and you guys thought I was getting ready for Christmas. Remember?
Oh yeah,
you fucking savages! You're like, oh, it's fucking Christmas in November.
So mad shit, and Alex is the one that set it up. I'm sorry, Alex.
You spent so much time, hard work, doing that, and you just shat on it.
No, I'm sorry.
Damn, David. Is it Nike or Nike? Big debate.
It's Nike, bro.
I believe in the UK, I always call it Nike.
You guys say Nike, yeah.
Nike. I don't know. The one I can't agree with over here is Adidas. You guys say Adidas.
What you mean?
It drives me.
It's Adidas, bro.
Drives me up the wall because who? What's the name? Why is it named Adidas? Do you guys know?
No.
Isn't it an acronym?
I bet I get this right. If I get this wrong, I'll get shredded again. Adi Dassler, the guy who invented the brand, his name is that. So Adi Dassler, that's how you pronounce the last name. So to my thinking is it's not Dassler, it's Dassler. So Adi Das. That's why we think of it. But
that's his first name?
No, his first name.
Okay, here it is. I got it.
I was like, that's a hell of a first
name. The company, this according to yournextshoes.com.
Okay.
It says, in fact, the company is named after its founder, Adolf Dassler. Nickname was Adi.
There you go.
So I guess it's Adi, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say
Adi
too much on that
and Das from Dassler. So I guess
you're
right, Jock. Fuck.
So that for me is why I, to this day, I still think nope, Adidas. But then how would you guys say Puma or Puma?
I mean Puma.
No one says Puma.
But what's the animal? What would you call the animal?
A puma.
A puma.
So what would you say the Argentinian rugby team is? The Pumas?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
The Pumas.
Los Pumas.
But okay, so that's weird. That's interesting though. Like I'm thinking if that's just solely for is it like sports shoes? Can we go over more name brands and then find some weird translations or whatever?
Okay, all right. So can you? Okay, sorry to cut you guys off. I just
go on.
I just typed in pronunciation of Nike,
Mhm.
and they gave me 2 pronunciations. The American pronunciation. I don't know if you guys could hear it. Hold on.
Probably not, because
Did you hear that?
nah.
Well, okay. It says American pronunciation Nike,
Mhm.
and then you click British pronunciation, and it's
Nike.
Nike.
It's like this the Siri equivalent when you can change the Siri or the Alexa accent.
No,
So-
bro. I mean,
That's because you're I just realized it's because the audio is going through your headset. That's why.
yeah, I have it right
But-
here. Okay, hold on.
That is interesting.
Nike.
Okay, this is the American pronunciation.
Yep.
Nike.
Mm-hmm. What's the other one?
Nike.
Man, so you made up your
You
own
wrong,
little
Sean,
lingo.
you
You made
wrong,
up your
bro.
own little thing. Nike. That's your
Nike.
own little thing. That's only for
That
you.
woman, nah,
Thanks.
but like
Thanks for holding the door, Nike employee. They're like, what the hell did he just
what
call
is
me?
this guy talking about?
This guy's
No, but anyway, that's just kind of where I go through. But anyway, with
yeah.
go on. Sorry, David.
No, it's not the shoes. Some of the trends right now going on that I've seen at the gym are, I've seen someone wear. I don't get it. People wearing the fucking Yeezys to work out in. In my opinion, I mean, the way I grew up is like, I'm paying $600, $700, $800 for those types of shoes. I'm not gonna go work out in them.
How stable are they really as well?
They're not.
They don't look very good for. So I have an asymmetrical high arch on my right foot, where I'm gonna get into the topic of orthotics later. But it means that whenever I look at my shoe without orthotics, I see the one heel or one side of the shoe is more one than the other because my foot isn't completely symmetrical. So shoes like that, even though I like wearing shoes of that style, are really not good for my foot. And my thinking is, as you just said, David, imagine you're doing upper body. I don't see the harm in wearing it. You're not really putting too much weight through the ground, right? Like, but if you're deadlifting and squatting, where your base of support through your feet needs to be pretty, I don't know, let's say secure. I don't know necessarily know if I would recommend that shoe for those activities.
I see what you're saying.
But upper body, I think, what does it matter if you're doing rows, bench press, overhead press? I mean, if you're standing, I get it.
Like if you're I don't know. I guess if you're squatting, if you're doing anything unilateral lower body, it's probably sus. And you can make the argument for bilateral as well, like depending on how much stability you got, right?
Yeah, and I would say something else that comes into this conversation as well, actually, is if you have terrible ankle mobility or range of motion or instability, you can also who used this? It was Freddie, right? That said you can have $100 pair of shoes with a 5-cent squat or something. Remember?
I think it was like $100.10,
Something
but
like that.
Or something like that. But he was trying to say that
messing
no
up
matter
the
how
math.
good, yeah, messing up everything. But if he was just really talking about no matter how good your accessories or your shoes are,
Right.
If your mobility or your flexibility, whatever it is dog shit, it doesn't matter. So we could also argue that you could have someone wearing the best pair of lifters, like you said, David. You get the new Romaleos, the 2s, the 3s, the 4s, whatever, and have dog shit mobility in your ankle. Well, no, I'm saying someone could have the best shoes, have terrible ankle mobility, or versus someone who's wearing the Yeezys and have great mobility. And if you put them up against each other, you're saying, well, at this point, one has no good range of motion, the other one does, or the other one is his body is used to doing these movements, he's used to living in these ranges, and yeah, he's wearing Yeezys, but because his body is used to being able to move like that, you pick up that observation as well. But
that begins to become a super flex, right? Like if you got good mobility, stability, you're dropping in to depth by David Bravo's standards in a squat, and he looks to see what you're wearing on your feet, and then you got the Yeezys. David would be like, all right, that's a flex, all right, you got me there. I didn't expect that. Like you see the knees, the hips, all that stuff. You're just like, I wonder, he's barefoot, definitely. She's barefoot. And then all of a sudden, boom, Yeezys.
Mm-hmm.
Must be nice to waste $700.
Or dunks or something like that.
No, but I've seen, I've seen so many types of shoes. The new ones, I mean, No Bull, they're coming up. I remember I bought my first pair of No Bulls when they were sort of still coming out with their shoes.
They have good branding.
They have great branding.
Yeah, advertising crazy amounts.
They had I think they had a sample store down in Soho. I don't know if it's still there.
Yeah,
I think it's still there.
It's still
I think
there?
it's still there.
It's next to Dough. Or
Right.
It's a donut plant, something like that. But,
and next to digging opposite Equinox. I wanna say.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
That's how I know it by.
But when I first bought the shoes, I only used to wear them to train clients. And I would notice that the sole started coming off, like where the insertion of the sole and the actual body of the shoe.
Wow.
I'm like, what the fuck? I don't even use these to work out.
That's not
and
good.
then I emailed them and they sent me a new pair like right away. But my experience with it wasn't great, but I'm sure now it's a lot better quality because they have so many new shoes coming out.
True. And I think like they have a lot of flavors and all that stuff too. Like I went on the website to check after our last conversation about kicks, and I was just scrolling and I was like, damn, this shit got like 20 pages of footwear. Like I'm just going through and I was like, let me try to narrow the search. And it's like 15 pages. And I'm like,
their first pair of lifters were ugly as shit.
I believe it.
I thought they were. I'm sorry.
That's probably why they kind of marketed or changed gears for advertising, because they probably only had a couple and they didn't look that great and people weren't really feeling it. They probably got feedback. So they made some changes there, but right now they got a lot of flavors. The only hesitation is like the size and I guess the quality, because I haven't worn them, but I just saw them and I was just like, geez, it's like endless. Up there with metcons. Like metcons got so many different types and shapes and flavors.
That's right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, there's so many different ones, and yeah, I haven't looked on No Bull in a while, but it's interesting because I had a couple clients that had some of the models, and one really liked it, the other one wasn't so crazy, but it depends on the model, I think. And I think it's also always fair to say that I think it'd be really beneficial to do, and I don't know if we would do this, but imagine we did testing where you got either you were blindfolded or either the think of it this way. Say, imagine you got 3-4 pairs of sneakers and you took them out and you were to try them all. And let's say they're just generically white or generically black, right? And you were to do weeks of workout with them and every single one of them and make notes and come out of it, not knowing the brands. I'm sure that we would have a different value or.
That's interesting. That's like,
right?
Because they've done similar experiments with coffee, right? Like, and people have it set up on a table and they're sipping on McDonald's coffee saying it beats Starbucks and all these other fancy places.
Because you don't have that conflict. You don't have, and look, I'm one of the first to admit that I'm more drawn to the Nike design shoes as opposed to necessarily I mean, they're comfortable to me, but if someone was to say, try these No Bulls, try these, for example, the Reebok Nanos are one of the competitive shoes to the Nike Metcon, and I never like the look of them.
What?
But people, is it the Nano? The Reebok Nano?
Yeah.
Nano, I can't remember, right?
They're competitive to who?
I'd say those are, whenever I was going to CrossFit, people either wore the Nanos or the Metcons. Those, and then some No Bulls, but those were the main two I would see. So I felt that whenever someone I spoke to who went to CrossFit, who was into it, would speak about, oh, I don't know whether I want to get the Nanos or the Metcons. So that was that sort of conversation. And so I always kept a close eye, and they always released their pairs around the same time of year. So they seemed like direct competition. And
I mean, Metcons are the first ones that came out.
Yeah, but I think if the Metcons, there are now 6 different styles, the Nanos, I want to say there are how many? More than 7 at least.
I don't know.
So, but I guess what I'm getting with this is that I always saw the Reeboks being another popular choice, but I was never sold on the design. So for that reason, I never got a pair. But it's foolish of me to be like that, because function over fashion, and it's a little hard for me to do that sometimes. If a pair of sneakers look good, even if the functionality isn't as efficient as another pair of shoes, as I'm just stating, I may end up going just more for the style, which is not very functional. And as I mentioned,
It depends on everybody too. Like sometimes you feel good in whatever it is, and you move better and you move more and you go outside and you step out because you're like, I'm feeling myself, even to somebody else who might be like, this looks like trash.
Yeah.
You're just walking out with straight up trash bags on your feet. But if you feel good, you're probably going to be more likely to move, more likely to put it on the gram, advertise, all that stuff. So it is important and it's not negligible. I think that there is validity in you feeling like metcons are the shit and you move well in them and they feel comfortable to you and they look really good. So, you know, there's something to be said for that.
That's a fair point.
I mean, I'd rather wear metcons than the nanos.
Well, that's my thought process. But let's say we were to do this. I mean, it'd be amazing if one day we get this platform or if we did it ourselves. So we had the 4 pairs. I'd say the nanos, the metcons, the no balls, and say, I don't know, what's another lifting shoe or strength training shoe, for example? Maybe Guillermo had a pair he liked. It was another brand.
Innovate.
Or say Innovate, exactly. Let's say all 4 of those made a metcon equivalent style shoe.
You gonna buy
we tested them out. What's up?
You gonna buy it for us?
No, that's why I'm saying hopefully we get some sponsors, you know.
He said hopefully
nice.
we get to the point, and that means sponsors.
Hashtag spons.
But that would be cool. Like, and a way to do it would be, I mean, somebody's gonna steal this idea and fucking make $1 million off of it. You know, like the little kid who does the YouTube videos on toys.
Yeah,
became that big hot thing where he just like, oh, look at this toy, and he reviews it. It's gonna be just like that. It's gonna be somebody who just does exactly what we're saying. But if you not bleach, but like if no branding, right? Just the shoe, no branding, not even the box nothing. Or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, put whatever sole you need and just all like either all white or all black. Like the shape can be the shape, but you know, just have it so you can't really say this is this or this is that. And have, you know, these companies throw them in a box and say, all right, try these out. What did you like? What didn't you like? And and for each and every one of them, what did you like about them? What did you
exactly? Yeah. What did you like about it? I'm sure there'd be some things you preferred. And I just remember doing this sort of testing when I was in high school for food and drink, for example. And it was the brands drink versus the generic brand. You know how somewhere like Trader Joe's has its own version of this as opposed to, let's say, we did a test with Diet Pepsi or Diet Coke, whatever it was, and then we had like a knockoff or a store's own version and things with that and food. And often, to my finding, it was either 50-50 or more in the case of the non-official product brand. So that's why I think if you had that, and again, you could, when these shoes retail for $135, $150, I mean, I know they don't cost that much to make, right? I think they make a lot less. And same with clothing as well. But that's why, so when Alex was working at Lululemon, obviously until recently, and when you're an employee, the discounts are more significant than if we're a Sweat Collective. And that's why her whole wardrobe is Lululemon. But you then start thinking about
I was just gonna say balling,
yeah, but it just makes you think about what's the cost of it. But what my point in this is, imagine if you buy a pair of shoes is $130, $150, but there's a pair of shoes out there that are worth or retail for $40, $50, but they're better, you know. And
CEUs retail for $20 or $25.
And then that's what that was Freddie, right? That mentioned the CEUs.
They don't even come in a box. I think it's just like a bag.
In a bag.
Yeah.
Come in a cloth bag.
But I also I got a suggestion. We should do this more just for like leisure or whatever. But doesn't Queens have a Nike outlet?
I don't know. You would be the one. If somebody asked me that question, I would go to you.
I only know of the Tanger outlets in Long Island and Woodbury. Those are the only ones I know.
We're coming, guys. I am dying to go to I haven't been to an outlet mall in over a year, and I'm dying to find me some deals, man. Oh wait, no, it's a lie. It was in the summer. My bad. I know it's a year. It's that thing, man. But you know what? For me as well, there's something to be said for. I know the Metcon. I'll let you guys jump on after this, but the Nike Metcons, for example, the latest versions of the 6s. But if I see a pair of 4s, 5s, I don't really like the 5s, but the 3s and the I like the 2s a lot. The 2s are cool, and the 3s. Sorry, and the 4s. I'm sorry. I saw a pair of 4s when the sixes were just released, and you know what? Like I think I got them this summer or a year ago, whatever it was. But dude, some of these fours, I really like the design. I was like, you know what? I'll pay $50 or $60 for a pair of fours that came out a year and a half ago, because it's not as if the actual shoe is old, the style is old, but shit works pretty well. And I'd rather do that. Maybe get a pair of sixes when they're down to 50 or something bucks. But I don't know. I kind of. Well, people also said when we were all at 76th Street, they go down to Modell's and they'd get the latest metcons. Here was my issue with that. They had maybe the two most basic designs in Modell's. That was it. And you're paying for retail. And Modell's also, I don't know if they're even in business anymore, but let's say the fives came out, they were still selling the fours for full regular retail price. Get out of here. There's no way I'd pay full retail for an old model, and it was the most basic one. Ran over, we should go to the outlets and at some point soon and just crush that, all of us.
I think when I first went to Modell's and I heard that we had a discount, like an employee discount, I ran there thinking I was gonna get everything. I was like, oh, just throw it in the bag.
It's 5%, man.
Yeah, and then first of all, they had that, that binder, the binder, and they were like,
scan it.
Yeah, they had to figure out like, oh, you get a discount. And I was like, yeah, I get a discount. And they're like, all right, do you know what your code is? I said, I got my name tag, but I don't know what that means. And then she had to like open up the binder and keep flipping pages just to find 5% off. So needless to say, I just bought the cheapest.
That's all it was. I thought it was 10. No,
it might have been 10%.
It wasn't much.
I think it was 5.
But you know who hooked us up? Kyle hooked us up with the Super Runner Shop.
That's right. I never went in, but
I never went. When I went, they were like, "No, we don't got a discount with y'all." I'm like,
it had to be a certain guy, though. I think wasn't a certain person.
I think so. But he was. I mean, it was just cool. It was a cool setup, cool situation. And I think that we should have more of that stuff, right? I don't know how much we get with sports club, being as big as it is. Like it kind of takes up the whole block, so there's not like really businesses to the left and right of it to do business or barters with. But that was a cool little perk. I got those cheap socks at Modell's and got some running sneakers at Super Runner store.
Oh, but if anyone listening to this is interested in 10,000 clothing, you put in my last name and you get 15% off. So
can you say that again? What was that?
If you're looking at 10,000, the clothing, being a brand ambassador, I guess that's my position. I guess.
Yeah. Wow.
You put in my last name at checkout, you get 15% off.
What's your last name?
Deloge.
How do you spell that?
Delaugerre.
Delaugerre.
Wow. That's awesome. Just your last name. That's it.
That's it. 15% off. Yeah.
You're so cool, bro.
That's why I was telling people.
Do you still have the thing for barbell apparel?
You know what? That's a good question. And I hope no one from there is listening because I believe so, but I couldn't tell you. I still get the emails and I'm part of the Facebook group, but
those Facebook groups, man,
I mute all of them. I mute. And
like, hey guys, do you know anybody in the Wisconsin area
who's shipping these out to a pair of 34? I mean, I don't even. Do you guys ever get this? And I think this is because sometimes people change the name of the Facebook groups, and then you're like, oh, this is what it formerly was. I don't know how, but I'm part of this COVID vaccination group in New Jersey. I have no clue how I'm part of this group, and I'm getting notifications saying, hey guys, go to this county. I'm thinking, when would I ever willingly sign up to that? Like, I'm not against it, but I don't know when I consciously went up and went, here we go, sign me up.
Damn, we were almost going to go a full podcast without mentioning COVID until that.
Here we go again.
Back in the rabbit hole.
Here we go.
I'm part of this Facebook group called Strength Training 101. And I almost started something because there was a picture posted about a whole bunch of cake. And the person was like, not today, Satan. I'm not going to have cake. And then I wrote, I'm like, ... but there's nothing wrong with cake, though. Oh, my God.
Oh, no. You can't reply. You can't reply to these things, man.
So I did, and all I got was, I didn't get bad ones. I got actually pretty nice ones. They're like, hey, you're right, but I just had cake, so this is like the extra. I'm like, context. That's what
They're
we gotta
gonna look at your
know.
profile. They're gonna see.
Then
where
I'm
you're
done.
at, They're looking at pictures.
Cancel
Who is this
culture.
guy?
I'm done. You guys gonna fire me at some point? And it's okay.
You guys
We're gonna see all these erroneous replies.
on that topic. Yesterday there was because I know this will drop after the Super Bowl, but it coming up this weekend. And on this this hockey Instagram page I follow, it had a picture of Brady and it said who would be the Brady of the NHL, and I put in Sidney Crosby because he cheats, and then the amount of people that were pissed and responding. And I got about 2 people that said, "You know what? Good for you. Well said." Or like, "You know what? You stirred so much shit up," and they were just so mad. And then in my head, I was thinking, "Wait, does he even cheat? I don't even know if he does." But I would just the fact that it stirred up so many people, and they were just getting, and I don't want to be that kind of person because whenever I see these athletes or celebrities on Twitter that have a Twitter war, and you're just thinking, "Wow. We're in 2021, 2020, whatever from last year, and we're having arguments on Twitter, and it's, or at least I see it, and I think, sad acts, and there I was like dropping something." But sometimes it's funny just to see how people get like a little vexed. Again, I'm not trying to vex anyone who likes Brady or Crosby out there, just kind of like being a little provocative. But I thought I didn't expect to get the response that I did. It was blowing up. But so that was that. Yeah.
Let's change gears to certs.
Yeah,
so recently I was taking out some certifications for 2021, and I'm putting together like the CEUs and stuff that I need for to maintain my certs. And one thing I didn't know, which I think makes sense, but at the same time I wanted to know that before this all happened. But when you get like different certifications through your like personal training facility, or how do you call it, like foundation, whatever, you're which one are you guys? I'm NSCA. You guys are ACSM?
I'm in NSCF. No,
I'm
NCSF.
I'm NASM.
Fucking acronym.
NASM. Okay, NASM and
I'm NCSF.
So in NSCA, when you get like another certification, you have to report CEUs, and then you get like, if you want to get certified, you have to have that many more CEUs to recertify for the CEUs. For example, I got the CPT, and then I got the CSCS. So instead of doing like, I don't know, like 5 CEUs or whatever it is, 8 CEUs, it turns out to be like 12 or 15, which might not seem like much, but some of these seminars, you don't get too much from it or anything at all.
5.
Right. And then that becomes, it's like 0.5 or 0.2. And it's just like, well, I just spent like 3 days, like just like in the seminar, listening to webinars.
And then some of them don't even transfer over.
Right. And that's the other thing too. Like, I feel like it's just there should be a way where everybody, like there's a global or a national sort of continuum when it comes to these things, right? Like you can go and get CEUs here, 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 and here, as opposed to just like, I'm going to offer a webinar, I'm going to offer the seminar, and it's going to cost $1,000 and you get 0 CEUs for it, but you get educated, right? Like, or like have it open-ended, right? Like if I feel like something's valuable, like for example, the animal flow thing, one of my hesitations with it was that it didn't give CEUs for my certification. So for NSCA, it doesn't give CEUs for or continuing education units for animal flow. So I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't spend the money because, at the end of the day, I need to get certified first and then everything else comes after. And then that time went and passed. But I say that just because I'm looking at the emails that I've been getting from like different certification courses, and everybody's trying to say, hey, check us out for 2021. And I'm just trying to figure out what to do and who to go to and what not to do. So I'm looking all throughout that stuff. Have you guys had any of those like challenges trying to get CEUs for certs and things like that?
So on that note, NASM is usually pretty good, or to my understanding has been pretty good about, hey, you need to get 2.1 continuing education credits. Here's a course that is worth 2.3. So do this one course and do it and whatnot. And then also or typically what it is, I think, for example, those Perform Better seminars, when they were in person before COVID happened, they'd be worth 1.9, and then your what's it called? Your first aid is 0.2, so it ends up being 2.1, whatever. So it's pretty simple for that. That being said, they're also pretty good about having courses at NASM. The NASM are pretty good about offering courses that if you just complete the course, it doesn't matter which one you do, it'll be enough to have your continuing education credits for the 2-year span that you're due for it to keep your training certification. So honestly, before COVID, I had planned on going to, say, the Perform Better seminar and just that being my credits. And then seeing that wasn't going to happen, I went to do the group fitness course, and it was enough for me to pass. I felt it was something I should do. I didn't have, we can always keep
a group fitness. I'm sorry to interrupt. A group fitness certification, so you can be like a certified group fitness instructor.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
So it was good. I feel it's not too dissimilar to what we already know, but it spoke a lot about the business side of group fitness, where, talking about the advantages of if you can have interactions with more people, right? So if you charge $20 a head, you get 10 people, that's $200 an hour. Whereas trying to find a person or 2 people that want to spend $100 an hour is a little harder to find in a market, whereas everyone can chip in for $20. Mm-hmm. And then if you have a client that's away, you lose $20 as opposed to $100. They just talk about those kind of business strategies and things like that. And there was a lot of smaller piece of information I didn't know in group fitness. I didn't think you had to be aware of, but it were, and it was good. Long story short, I was actually looking to add to my current work load through doing more group fitness as well as one-on-one. So I haven't really pushed on it. So that was my take. But to your point, I have always looked at these courses and looked at what they were worth. And as you're saying, if something was worth half, or I need to do more than one, and it seemed like twice the work, without sounding lazy, even though this is lazy, I would say, how can I get the same credits with the least amount of work?
Yeah,
because to me, it's
time. I mean, you can classify it as being lazy, but it's also time, right? Like you spend a weekend doing something and it's like 5 hours Saturday, 5 hours Sunday. You'd hope to get at least a CEU for it if you got to complete like 5 CEUs or 8 CEUs within, a 2-year time span.
And here's the thing with Perform Better. I mean, obviously it wouldn't make any sense if you paid for it and didn't show up, but once you paid and you showed up and signed in your name the first day, you got everything. You got the credits. It wouldn't make sense for you to not show up, but they said they wouldn't enforce you to be there. It wasn't as if it was school and they said you have to be there every day.
Yeah, and that's cool and I think a lot of other places do that as well. And that was just me just being a novice and showing up and being like, oh, I got my CEUs. Like they give you like the bag and all that stuff. You're like, oh, I got the CEUs. I'm good to go. But what I was saying is that it helps you incentivize something different as opposed to incentivizing the CEU. Like it incentivizes your education and your personal growth and your professional growth. So as opposed to just saying, oh, I got to do this one and that one and this one, and then you feel like you're there all day, you can take a break whenever you need a break. You can jump into classes whenever you see fit and workshops whenever you see fit, and just try to make the best of your time, right? Because we flew out there. Obviously, we talk about it every 10th episode. So
David.
This is about the time. But it makes it worth your while, right? Like you fly out there, you want to learn some stuff, and you get to be around these fitness industry leaders, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that's amazing. I wish I went.
Well, I plan on doing it 2021 because I'm over. I don't even know if they'll be able to do this thing 2021 summer. It's just it's a little. Okay, we're not trying to mention COVID. There we go again.
That's twice.
We should do a drinking game. Every time I mention COVID, it's a shot for the Super Bowl.
Drink kombucha. Oh, and it's Super Bowl. Speaking of Super Bowl, before we jump into David's topic, I want to unfortunately congratulate Tom Brady on winning the Super Bowl. By the time this podcast episode comes out,
bro,
it's likely.
Wow.
It's likely that
not.
Listen. I don't want Brady to win, but
he's that good.
The Chiefs are that good too.
All right, let me put it to you another way.
Go on.
I'll put it to you another way. If you're all right, I'm just going to say this craziness. Your great-great-great-grandmother was lying on her deathbed. She can last another day if a team wins, or the team doesn't win, right? That's the thing, right? If Tom Brady is playing, are you going to put your eggs in the Tom Brady basket, or are you going to put your eggs in the other quarterback bracket or basket? Same bracket and basket. It's a tongue twister.
What's your question?
If your life was on the line for a football game, would you want Tom Brady to be the quarterback representing your team, or would you not want it to be that way?
I honestly
I'd rather die.
Have you seen Mahomes play this year, though, Angel?
I'm not. Listen, I have.
Have you seen him? Did you see him in? He got concussed in. That's another.
So there's another piece of the puzzle. So yes, the concussion, but also I heard through the grapevine that, and I didn't check the source, so this could all be bullshit. But I heard through the grapevine
TMZ.
that yes, TMZ for real. Why not? We got enough, drama going on. Right. I heard through the grapevine that the barber for the Chiefs tested positive for COVID.
I heard this.
So that could play into the Super Bowl and who plays and who doesn't play, et cetera, et cetera.
So apparently one of the kickers, one of the punters, was halfway through his haircut when the guy got his results. So stop the haircut, right? And this guy was scheduled to cut Mahomes' hair on the day before or something. Something along those lines. But I heard that too.
It's going to be a whole conspiracy just to make Tom Brady win. I watch.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying like, all right, he is skilled. Like he's one of the most skilled, arguably the best quarterback in the league, right? He wins championships, he wins games. And I want the young blood to win. I want Mahomes to win. I want Mahomes,
Here's the thing. If Brady wins on Sunday, if we're talking and Brady's won this, he'll only be at 7. No other athlete in the North American history has 7 championships. Michael Jordan had 6. Brady has 6. Kobe has 5. No one has 7. That's my understanding. So there's an incentive there. But I think that I still think it'd be interesting.
The Yankees record. I gotta see who's.
Yeah, check. Yeah, maybe I could be wrong for the baseball actually. But I think also if my thinking as well is if we're speaking and Mahomes has won his second one in 2 years and Brady sits at 6. I believe that Mahomes will surpass him. That's my thinking. Because if he's 25 and he's won 2, I mean Brady's 43 and he's playing in so Brady is 47% likely to reach a Super Bowl in the NFL in a season.
That's crazy.
He's reached it 10 out of 21 seasons. And honestly, one of those seasons, he went out in the first game of the season. So that wasn't a very likely chance, but you have more chance of Tom Brady reaching a Super Bowl than Steph Curry making a 3-pointer.
Is that for real?
That's a stat. Yeah, it's a stat. That's just, yeah. And he literally went, oh, who wants to go to the Super Bowl? Tampa, you want to pick me up? All right, let's go. That's literally what he did. And I will say something else funny real quick. Did you guys see the Gronkowski thing about the trade when he got out of a trade 2 years ago?
Yeah.
David, did you see it? He says, oh, yes, I almost got traded. They said, no, you didn't tell the story. And he goes, yeah. They rung me up and they said, we traded you to Detroit. And he says, you can't trade me. I'm retired. So they're like, all right, they took the trade away. And then 2 weeks later, he showed up to camp. He's like, oh, yeah, I'm not retiring. he got out of a trade for lying about retiring. And the reason why
it on air, too, which was like, it's
crazy. But he was retired at that point. He wasn't playing anymore, I think, at that point. So he kind of came out of retirement. But the other thing I'll say real quick about him is apparently in the off season, they had to send in virtual workouts to the coaching staff and say, hey, I did my sprints. Yeah. What he would do is he would do it in one day, but wear different shirts. And he sent in the same day, but different shirts. But like, hey, this is Mondays, this is Tuesdays, this is Thursdays. I mean, I think it's funny, but at the end of the day, you are an NFL athlete and you are playing to win. So you do yourself more justice being fitter for the game. And I don't know. I just thought it was funny.
We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. This is definitely going to be old news, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see if this is even. Yeah, everybody's going to laugh about this. But he was right. Or, oh, you're full of shit.
He was so fucking wrong.
Yeah, right. But David, go ahead. Do you?
I wanted to talk about foam rolling and self-myofascial release. Do
you
guys
problem
do
with
it with your clients?
Yes. Huh? I was looking for my hypervolt. I was going to say, you got a problem with the hypervolt?
No, I don't think it's a problem. I just wanted to talk about what some research studies have shown about the whole foam rolling thing, and the majority of them really don't come out in favor of foam rolling, but they also don't come out in favor of not foam rolling.
Oh, so it's like up in the air. It's 50-50.
It's more of like a, you know what, it could have very small, very slight positive results for sprinting or pain reduction sensitivity or something like that. And
Right.
one guy named Dr. Quinn Hennick, he runs this place called the Clinical Athlete, and he's a physical therapist, and he was mentioning about how foam rolling, one of the ways people think it works, especially the scientists that are running these tests, are that if let's say you have limited ankle mobility, you're going to foam roll your calves, your anterior tib, all that stuff. Go squat, do it again, roll out your calf and tib, squat, do it again. Like something like along those lines, that's when it has a big positive response. Mainly because once you start foam rolling the shit out of your anterior tib and your calf, that hurts. And at that point, it's sort of like, he doesn't use the word numb, but I say the word kind of like numbs the pain in terms of when you go squat,
It
you're
can
able to
mask
get
the pain.
Exactly. You could get into a different range with the ankle and then work with that mobility that you have.
In the ankle.
The ankle, right? And then
Got to get Dr. Ankle on the podcast.
but yeah, I mean that's what I tell my clients whenever they ask me about foam rolling,
Yeah, I agree. I
that
think
doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to do it.
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt to do it.
Like it may hurt not to do it.
What happens when your clients are highly against? I had one person who was she hated the idea of foam rolling because it was something about blood. Like she was like, I get very queasy around blood.
What?
And I was
where's
like,
there blood when you foam roll?
well, that's what I said. I said, the foam roller isn't going to go into your body and it's not going to cut you up. Like you don't get damaged to the point
This piece of foam is going to cut you up.
Right. So it was one of those things where I think it was the concept, and I don't know, right? Everybody's got their thing. I respect everybody's thing. So I said, all right, we're not foam rolling today. That's it. But I think it had to do with like the idea of the muscle meat, like moving around the bone, and then the blood moving around within that, like your blood moving around within that.
How does she feel about laying down on the floor, and how does she feel about laying in bed?
Listen, man, when people tell you these things, you just keep it moving. You don't gotta.
You gotta. I don't know.
You can dissect it, but I just respected it. I said, all right, well then, if it's about foam, if all of that is from the foam roll, we're not foam rolling. We're gonna.
But it's an interesting take, because if you wanted to, and this is not criticizing you, because I found myself in a situation where it's been hard to
get people to do stuff
or encourage the foam rolling concept, right? And I'm sure, again, this wouldn't be the typical approach, but I'm sure if the first response or resistance is, I don't like how the blood is moving around or the tissue, what do you think taking the stairs is doing? Like if you had a superficial picture and looked underneath your skin and saw how the blood was circulating, how the muscles were working, when you, as you just said, David, as you were laying down, as you got out of bed, as you went to use the restroom, as you
feel
got
about
downstairs,
sitting down on a chair.
It's if you want to, but and look, honestly, Angel, it sounds and you probably saw this and you realized it wasn't worth picking that battle, right? But there's obviously there might be something deeper there than what they're saying, which we can see that as well, where someone's it's because of this, but honestly, there's maybe something else to it. And as you said, and David made a great point of it's not, it can help you if you do it, but I wouldn't necessarily say that if you had poor ankle mobility, it wasn't because you didn't just foam roll one day. There's probably more factors to it. Is it because of the sort of shoes you're wearing? Is it because you're on your feet or you're sitting more? There's so many factors and variables that go into things of that nature that it's not to say that because you didn't foam roll for 10 minutes today,
Do you think, I was going to ask, like, do you think it's worth it for like the clients that are coming in for them to foam roll before their session? And if they don't foam roll before their session, then you foam roll in session? Like, I mean, the evidence is kind of like half and half from what it sounds like. So
I read the research on that and said that pre-workout foam rolling showed a small increase in sprint performance and like jumping and stuff like that. Whereas post-workout foam rolling showed a very, very slight decrease.
I think
And I mean, if anybody wants to read it, it's on. It's a big meta-analysis on the National Library of Medicine. But it's called "The Effects of Foam Rolling on Performance and Recovery." But
send that to the group. I want to take a look at
okay.
that.
I mean, like I said, it depends, right? If you want to do it, do it. If not, you don't have to. But I'm always a big person of like, well, let's give it a shot. You won't lose anything.
And it also depends on the case, right? If someone is, as I mentioned, sitting all day and they are really tight in their hip complex or limiting their ankle mobility that day, or if someone is on their feet all day moving, let's say depending on what kind of work they do and they come train with you, I think it just depends, honestly. And this is a little, I don't want to say this, but this is when someone asks me, oh, should I come in to walk out? Let's say it's 8 a.m. Should I come in fasted or on a full stomach? I think there are positives to doing both.
Mm.
And I think there are advantages and disadvantages to doing both. And depends how you respond, depends how your body is typically tuned in with the nutrition. But I think it just kind of, without going away too far away from foam rolling, sorry to bring it back in, but I going back to your point, Angel, about should they do it 10 minutes before in session, I think it's a safe thing to do 10 minutes at the beginning of a session to feel you're familiar, or at least feel that the client is familiar. And look, this is by no means a criticism, but there have been some people I work with that just forget more rapidly some of the movements for foam rolling. And it's like Chinese whispers. You know Chinese whispers?
No.
Like if we go around a circle, let's say there's 10 of us.
I
Effect.
What's that?
Called the
Oh,
telephone effect, Jacques.
So in England it's called Chinese whispers. So it's when you whisper something, by the time it gets round to you, it sounds different. So the point I'm making about that is if you taught someone how to foam roll, how they perceived it and how they remember it. Look, you'll be noticed. Sometimes you teach someone to foam roll, let's say week 1 of the program. Look at week 6. It looks different. Sometimes, not always, sometimes. So
people are like, what are we doing again? Like,
well, I do use,
issue, but
yeah, I love to use it for diversifying posture, right? So if you're sitting down for a long period of time, you're in spinal flexion, your hips are all jacked up, hip flexion, all that stuff. But then you get on a foam roller, you have to go down to the ground, you have to roll on the roller, you have to set yourself up, like kind of like you're doing a plank, and then roll along the roller, or flip over, things like that. And that helps diversify somebody's movement. And I think that is the part that is probably the most beneficial for some of my clients, more so than the actual rolling itself. Like getting down to the ground, rolling around for a bit, and then climbing up into a standing position, that could possibly help. If the foam roller isn't doing that much, then at least there's that diversity. Similarly, there's also like the back extension against the roller, or the knee flexion against the roller for grinding purposes. Or sitting down in like that figure 4 for like using a trigger point ball for the glute. Things like that help to mobilize the body, and create that diversity so they move better. So that's why I like to use. When you do see some, I think that you can see a lot, especially with the back, you can see a lot of progress made for somebody's mobility. And maybe if it's not attributed to the roller itself, then it's attributed to going to spinal extension and then trying out your spinal flexion, spinal extension, right? Because what else is going to have you in spinal flexion, really? I mean, spinal extension. Really. Yeah,
it's all limited. Going on that point as well, where something that I have a friend I train, for example, and he'll ask, oh, this hurts, what should I do to stretch it? As in, my groin hurts, or I've pulled my groin, how do I stretch it? And I just want to take this time on here to say that it isn't always necessarily the best approach to stretch what feels pulled or stretched, right?
Already stretched, or are you going to overstretch it?
Exactly. That's so. And the first thing when someone tells me or asks me is, 1, we're not doctors, but 2, I don't have MRI eyes. I can't see the inside. So I'm going to go off judgment. I'm going to go off your symptoms and the experience I've had. So, and I remember, I want to say, I can't remember which one of the managers at 76th Street told us this. And this really, for me, helped me understand injuries and tightnesses a lot better. And think of the antagonistic muscles. So if we're talking about, let's say your hamstring is tight, think about tightening your quads or whether it's foam rolling, but don't necessarily assume the source of the pain is the root of the problem or the pain, right? So I mentioned my right foot isn't completely, the arch of the foot isn't completely symmetrical. When I started discovering that a few years ago, I'm like, is that the why my chain going up from my ankles to my knees to my hips, there's a little dysfunction? Is that why my left knee is as fucked up as it is? It could be something as simple as that. So the point I'm trying to make is never assume that, like, if my left knee was an issue, it was probably more to do with something that wasn't properly working in my hip or my knee or on the other side. It's very rarely that the source is always the root of the problem.
The joint theory.
Exactly. But and it's just a touch on this with foam rolling. So if you think, my calves are really tight, all right, what is it below your calves? It's your shoes you're wearing, or I know you guys like that sound effect. But, I'll jump and say this, right? I worked with someone before, and they were squatting, and they're, it really hurts. I was like, where? In my thighs. What do you mean? It hurts. It was a muscle working, man. It was just muscle was working.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation about what is pain. Define pain.
Define pain.
And you could go back to probably Cliff's episode where we spoke a little bit about that, I think.
100%. And knowing, again, like you said, pain, the difference between discomfort or the tissue working and then it being chronic joint pain. And it's funny because I know we typically describe the pain as being anything dull and achy is usually I say joint or tissue
don't do it
related.
to yourself. Don't define pain right now.
No, but then we describe sharp pain as being more nerve related, for example. But then how does the client or how does the person you're working with know how to describe it? It's a little like, and having been there myself, I would say, I mean, it kind of feels like this, but like, again, the person isn't with MRI eyes looking at inside you. So, but just to say that there's not a blueprint for how, say all three of us tomorrow have a quad injury or hamstring injury or calf injury or whatever. There's not one way that's going to help us all the same.
Right.
Not likely. I mean, if there is, there could be one way that overall helps us about as efficient as possible, or a method of helping recover. But it's not to say me, yourself, David, yourself, Angel, we do this one recovery practice that's going to help us recover, let's say, our calf strain. We might take a little bit longer, and there's so many variables and studies that can be done into that concept. But just to say that if we're foam rolling, anyone listening, you're not going to get the exact same response as everyone. It's always a little bit different. It's a little hard to tell. So there's everything is ever that black and white or set in stone.
True that. And if that was Richard's strain is going. Actually, don't say
yeah.
It is Richard.
So it's so
but if
funny.
It is Richard, Richard, you gotta be careful. It always helps to understand, and I'll get serious because it does make sense. If you understand the body from a physiological standpoint when it comes to injury, you understand that the immediate response to injury is inflammation, and then you have to figure out whether you need inflammation, and you don't necessarily want to push inflammation away unless it's hindering you to do other things. For example, if my knee is swelling up to the point where I can't walk, then I might want to ice that knee, right? Because if it continues to swell up, then I'm just not going to be able to move. So you need to mitigate it, you need to manage it, but understanding that, you're not just going to like hit it with a foam roller, because that's going to cause more inflammation. So, obviously when you get injured, if you get injured, speak to your doctor, physical therapist, try to get that sorted out before you start attacking it with a whole bunch of things. But understand that inflammation is not necessarily the problem.
And that's where I want to touch on about the Theragun. I know David was going to talk about it. If a client asks me, oh, I just got a Theragun and I was drilling the fuck out of my legs and my back.
You could bruise yourself.
That's one thing where I don't like going, Angel.
Nah, I was just going to say, not even bruise. I've used the Hypervolt when I first got it, fresh out the gate, back in 2018, 2017, when that shit was like not founded at all. I'm joking. But it was more than a bruise. Like I tore tissue. Like it was like a grade 1 tear or something like that, micro tear.
And let's be honest, that's probably a very common occurrence when people are using it.
Yeah.
And that
they overdo it. So they want to get it fixed quick.
But that can go back to a number of things. That can go to not being able to decipher or distinguish the different sorts of symptoms of pain or discomfort. That can be one. It can be also, I didn't like it unless a massage therapist was using this. Why? The same reason when we saw trainers, or I'm going to say when I saw trainers giving a client a massage after a workout, if you're a licensed massage therapist, fine, you know what you're doing. But when someone, and that's why when Alex, she'll say, "Oh, do this," or she'll do and she'll do it like around my neck or my traps. It could be good for me, but she's not a licensed massage therapist, so I'm like, I don't know what you're doing. I don't understand all of that, but she's not a licensed massage therapist, and I think it goes in the same context as if a trainer isn't licensed by law to do it. You open yourself to the possibility of a lawsuit for one, but then also the Theragun. I've had people come up to me and say, "Yeah, my partner just drilled the fuck out my back pain and it's gone," and I'm thinking, okay, same thing I just mentioned about the source and the root of the problem. If you have pain in your lower back, I mean, yeah, it could be something to do with a disc being herniated or displaced, whatever it is, but there's maybe something else along the chain that could be contributing to it. And honestly, just for a summary on this, on my take, usually if you have back pain, some of the first thing you start working with are glute stretching, hamstring stretch, or glute strengthening. I'm sure if you ask a physical therapist, some of the first things to start doing with any back pain, you're doing things like bridges, you're doing things like monster walks, things of that nature. Just again, if you think that, and you look at if you look at the human body from the posterior side, right, you look at the whole body, and if you were to point and look at the skeleton at your lower back where you're feeling the pain, let's just say for theory that your glutes are underactive, right? Whether you have the real hip anterior pelvic tilt, whether your glutes just aren't active, whether you are someone who sits down all day, there's a strong likelihood, and it's just based on my experience, that if someone's had back pain, we've done those exercises and those patterns, the pain is lessened, or they're not as conscious of it, at least. So just to chip in there really and say that it's not as simple as you just said, David, as well. It's not a simple fix. The body doesn't work like that. The body doesn't just go. And I also am really against people just popping Advil like it's nothing. You're not addressing the problem, you're masking it. And that's why I'm not going to shit on it, but KT tape, I don't believe in it. How are you going to tell me that something on the outside of your skin is going to help manipulate how your tissue sits on the inside?
It's like
I don't buy it.
Icy Hot or Bengay. It doesn't get deep enough to actually fucking do something.
I don't think so. It's interesting you mentioned about Bengay, because when I played rugby, we had something called a deep heat, and it was the same thing when it gave that kind of burning sensation. And honestly, it was enough to take your mind off of it. But if you had an orthopedic injury, something with a fractured bone or a tendon or something, that's not going to do anything from the surface.
I think those things do their work for things that are like kind of like surface stuff. So like, yeah, very minor, because I've had like a couple of strains and a couple of pulls, and that has helped with that.
Tiger Balm, same thing, right?
Yeah, Tiger Balm, same thing. Like you put that on, and then I'm not licensed to say whether it's like masking the pain and then making me feel a different sensation, right? They all get the argument of like, oh, my foot hurts, and somebody slaps you in the face, you're just like, and you just run away, and it's like, what happened to your foot hurting, right? Like, I don't know if it's that sort of
or running
situation.
like the Hamburglar, never forget.
Oh man, never forget that one. But I don't know if it's that situation or if it's something different, right? Like it focuses on attacking like the fascial tissue. I don't know how that stuff works, but that does work for pulls and strains for me personally. But yeah, if you got something fractured, that's probably not going to do the job.
Yeah.
Actually, it depends. It depends, because those people who have rib fractures and they don't know that they fractured their ribs until like
Drew Brees
months later. I don't know about Drew Brees. I know Gronkowski once fractured his rib and it punctured his lung. You remember that? And he was back in like a week.
Yeah, I believe that.
I don't think there was Bengay there.
Yeah, well, we'll have to bring on this new scientist that I know, and she works in neuroperformance but concussions as well. When Mahomes went out and he came out within 5 days, she was like, "Yeah, that's terrible. There's no way the brain healed in 5 days. No way."
We'll see. I mean,
that's a different topic for a different day, but
I forgot who mentioned it, that whenever somebody has an injury, like a tendon, ligament, that takes years for that to actually maybe get to 100%, and usually people don't wait that long.
I mean, when they get paid millions to play, they're not going to wait that long.
They're not waiting. Yeah.
And even the team isn't going to let you wait that long. They're not going to pay you. But I did want to say there was, I probably mentioned this before with concussions and genetic predispositions to concussions. Did I ever mention that before?
Maybe
I
not.
don't think so.
Okay. So if you get that neuroscientist on, then maybe we can speak about that a little bit more in depth. But basically, it's just there are studies and tests that people can take now in order to see if they have a genetic predisposition to having concussions on contact and the severity of the concussions based on that. But that provokes, or it kind of like creates another whole loophole with ethics, because if you're an athlete, would you rather know that you're predisposed or at a higher risk for concussions if you're like in high school and you're a rock star playing football, or in college and you're a rock star playing football? And then who does that information go to? Does it go to the teams? Does it go to potential teams that are looking for you, scouts?
Are they being forced to take this test?
No, it's all optional and it's all confidential. These were just studies just to see if they could actually do it, because they had, done some research on genetic testing, and they found a series of DNA that can say, all right, you are at a higher risk of getting concussions or a severe concussion, and based on contact, right? So some people aren't, and they're good to go. I mean, you'll still get concussed every now and again, but some people have, like, it's just a one-hitter quitter. And would you rather know that beforehand or not know it at all? And then who does that information go to, right? So.
No, it's fast. It's super fascinating stuff, honestly. And they always say about how we know so little about the brain and still so much for us to learn about it, but then it's just, again, that's why I just think, yeah, I don't know. That stuff's just super fascinating, and we have so much to learn. And this taps into something else, but obviously like mental health, for example, and that's why we're fitness professionals and we're big advocates of movement, because it helps. Something I'll say as well, when I was doing this internship in the summer with Louisa, her name is.
She's the neuroscientist.
Yeah. So she works with athletes all the time, and I'm sure we'll get on one day. She'd love to, and she had me look into the research of Alzheimer's, for example. And whenever I looked at, say, the early onset stages of Alzheimer's, or what some of the signs to pick it up, or some of the things you can do to help decelerate the process, because there's essentially no cure, but there's so many things you can do. And as you mentioned, I can't recall what you said, but remember you were saying, but if you're perhaps more at risk of
if you're more at risk of having a concussion on contact, or at a severe, like your likelihood of having a severe concussion on contact, like they can figure that stuff out. Would you rather know, or would you rather not know? And then who gets that information?
I think that'd be something where the West Carl, someone more who would know more to that as well, be really good to kind of pick their brain, no pun intended. But things like that, and picking up on early onset mental health disorders is really important, because the sooner you catch it, the sooner you can start to decelerate it. But what I was getting at was the one theme that was very common when I was looking at all these papers was how the most inexpensive and practical method to help with the delayed stages of Alzheimer's or any forms of dementia is sorry, I lost my train of thought. It doesn't sound good, but is movement. Sorry, that was what I was trying to get at. Was it movement? If you exercise regularly, and there was some studies saying it would be better to be high intensity, low intensity, just moving. But a lot of there were so many studies, and every time I saw something, it was movement. Obviously, nutrition is very good, and sleep is very important as well. Which that's something that we've seen. I'm sure when you see a client and they're not seeing results, if you start digging into their sleep, I mean, having done some more check assessments recently as well, I love picking into the habits. I think this is things that I never tapped in before that makes such a difference in everything and in daily life, and why they keep stepping on the scale. They're not seeing the changes they want to, or it's taking longer. There's so many things, but it's sleep as well being as important as a nutrition, as movement, but and the reason why I had a strong interest as well was something that my grandfather had in his last stages of his life, and to see how someone, I think what I'm getting at as well is if you guys had kids, would you let them play a contact sport, or would you let them play? I use say American football. Would you let them play if you had kids?
Yep.
So David would, Angel.
I don't know. I probably not.
It's also
It
your wife's
depends.
decision usually more than yours, but
Yeah, I think we'd have to
Right.
have a conversation about that. But we spoke about that low key, and we said we're rooting kind of for baseball, baseball or tennis. So they're not necessarily I mean, baseball you can have contact, right? So you slide into a base, you bump into somebody, something like that. But or you run into a wall, like if you're an outfielder or something like that, or Derek
Such a
Jeter,
wall.
right? Shortstop, jumping into the crowd. But yeah, that is a good question. I don't know. We're still debating that, but right now we got baseball and tennis lined up.
we said tennis, soccer. I want to say hockey, and I just think the fact that something as big as the NFL has so much more of an attention on it because of how big it is, as opposed to something like the NHL hockey, because it's not as big. It's not on such a big platform. But David, you said you feel you would.
Yeah.
David played lacrosse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also pretty intense as well.
We're gonna use those.
Collarbone.
You broke your kid's collarbone?
A kid's collarbone.
A kid. Oh, I was like, first of all, let's talk about your kid.
I
This
have-
just
I
in. David's got a kid.
I have no kids. No
He's
kids
actually
that I
high
know
school.
of.
ACS standby.
No kids that I know of.
So I wanted to just plug this book real quick because this was the one that was talking about the concussions, and then maybe we could wrap it up.
Okay.
But it's the Sports Gene, The Sports Gene by David Epstein. So that was a book that I copped on audible.com and read it, listened to it. And towards the end, they started speaking about a lot of different genes that are being tapped into or people are researching, and their kind of like impact on sports and the ethics of human being or humankind, because it's very tied in. Whenever you say genes or genetics, it's kind of like you got ethics right there on the other side. Speaking of which, I also got a chance to read Colin's book, and there was something that he referred to.
You finished it already?
I'm halfway through. I'm a very
Wow.
slow reader. It's not that big of a book. Actually, I got it right here. I'll show you because he's going to come on next time, so the YouTube people can kind of get
My darling.
by the
That's so
time this
cool.
drops. You know, it's like
Show us the back
200
of it?
pages. Oh, it's Colin's picture.
Yeah.
My dude.
Nice.
But anyway, he did speak about something in regards to ethics, and we'll get into it next week when we have him on. But any closing thoughts? You guys good? Want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I'm gonna be doing a shit ton of Warzone. I'm officially now by myself with Alfie, so
Let's do it. Get on that zone. Anyone
yeah,
who's listening to this plays, yo, we out.
we
It's done.
once I get better than 1 kill every 5 games, we should start our Twitch channel because my play is
Hey, I'm
fucking
down doing
trash.
Twitch.
I've seen David actually on Austin's Twitch.
Oh yeah?
Horrible.
Yep, David's on the low, just like running around, or
If
he's
you're
already dead.
terrible, how fucking bad am I gonna be?
Okay, listen. First of all, that was a bad day.
When
and
you remember when you, me, and Adrian were like number
we were-
3,
We always
And
when
I
me
was
Angel
like-
play. We always get like 6th or 7th.
I was the last one alive, and I was doing some ridiculousness, hiding behind a log that probably didn't even exist. It was
Sounds
like
like me.
it was like a broken graphic of something that used to be there, and I'm just prone, just trying to reload.
Shout out
like,
to Adrian. We played last
Yeah.
night. He got 27 kills.
oh my goodness,
Damn.
that's insane!
Fucking monster.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome. All right, we'll wrap it up. We'll catch you guys next week. See you later.
Bye.
I